Education, a key pillar of society or whatever's left of it. We've gone from promise
elimu nafanya watoto wanaosoma mpaka wamalize primary wataweza kwenda secondary school na hakuna malipo hapo.
To promise.
My administration has embarked on the initiative to supply children commencing primary schools with laptops.
So, how did we get here?
Students returned to school after a 2-week delay following torrential rains that left hundreds dead and thousands homeless.
Hata hii masomo ikiwa kidogo, saa ingine hata iko na faida kwa sababu hawajifanyi wajuaji. Wale bado soma sana, they listen.
Hey guys, welcome to season 3 of Fake Work with Justine. In the first episode this season, the focus is on Kenyan education, its history, problems with capitation, its key stakeholders, that's teachers, parents, school principals, curriculum setters, and shout out to Malkiat Singh and Wala Binwala, are they still alive? And what CBC or CBE is. Already checking out? Don't worry, if you made it through ugali afternoons of double chemistry with a teacher inspired by sloths, this will be as easy as hitting your head on that desk. Let's get into the history of Kenyan education. Cut to missionaries indoctrinating communities they deemed backwards, teaching them German, Portuguese, Spanish, French and English so they could be better colonized. Look, I'm doing it right now. 2. Teaching them arithmetic. No, I refuse this. People back then knew how to count. They just clicked on change language so our ancestors could count their atrocities back to them. And 3, the Bible, so they could turn the other cheek on all those atrocities. With the flocking of missionaries came school expansion courtesy of SGR 1.0, powered by coal. Coal, blacker than a smoker's lungs. Schools during this colonial era enjoyed their apartheid phase as they were divided into the segregation big 3, ethnic Africans, ethnic Indians, and Europeans only. The country only had one multi-ethnic school known as Strathmore College, now known as Strathmore School. The country then colonially departed shortly after, and now there are multi-ethnic schools everywhere around the country. Ethnic Indians can be found mingling with other ethnic Indians in schools all over Parklands and South B. After the fight for independence, CPE hovered for a while, but the trauma was readjusted to 844 in 1985. 844 did its fair share of childhood psychological and educational cramming damage, not mentioning the dent it made to our fashion sense. I can't get into what the 844 rollout was like, but what they did was a lot of emphasis on passing exams, mostly through cramming and guesswork. I still remember important 844 points like the Yatta Plateau and parts of a flower like anthers, filament, and pilsner. Pistil. And that diatomite is mined at Kariandusi near Gilgil, recently available at a shamba near you, reinventing itself as substandard fertilizer. You serve me well random 844 information. I will never forget you. I literally cannot. The phasing out of 844 began in 2017 when CBC was introduced, and it's been in the pilot phase ever since. Not to say this whole new curriculum is structured like a Boeing plane, but if it flies like a cardboard box. And now CBC is changing names like USA, USB, na sasa ni CBE. The number of schools in Kenya also increased significantly from 151 at independence to 4,011 as of 2004 to 32,954 as of 2021. Did the quality of education improve as more schools popped up? I'm asking you guys, maybe you guys have an answer? If you don't, tafakari ya bazoo. From Johnston's CPE to Moi's 844 Harambes and baptizing schools after himself, to Kibaki's free primary education and free-ish secondary education, to Uhuru's free-ish secondary education, forceful CBC introduction, and MIA laptops for class 1 kids who are now about to be voters, to things getting WSR's CBC WOIs and higher education defunding model, every other commander-in-chief has done their part to improve or hugely trivialize education. So, let's talk about capitation. Capitation refers to how systems are funded, but for Kenyan school, it's more like decapitation. When education gets treated like a business, the people who lose out are the students. That's a quote from Wyatt Cenac, who's another prolific comedian who helps me to sound profound. I hope I did. And if I didn't, I blame it for. I'll even add that the people who lose out are the generations to come. That one was stronger, right? I knew it. Somebody get me one of those African literary awards. I'd like to thank all my family. So, how do public schools get funded? Schools require funding for their tuition, boarding, daily operations, infrastructure, and also corruption. Most of this funding comes from the same account, unfortunately. Recently, the Wheelbarrow administration defunded the school feeding program by 2 billion Kenyan shillings, and free education may be ending too. This is after the education CS and man failing the Migos legacy say that to fund education, they will have to start thinking outside the box and into parents' pockets that are already fighting for their last coin with SHA, affordable housing, and other pay-as-you-earn Akilio deductions. GOK also pressed delete on the school fee subsidy that was put in place during the pandemic. Who needs financial assistance when parents proved that they could pay school fees for 4 terms during the 2021-2022 school calendar? Also recently, the student medical cover, funding for special education, free secondary and free primary education were also slashed. The government even admitted for the first time since the free primary education inception that they failed to remit the full amount required to fund every child. GOK is bringing back elimu ni nguvu ya mfuko. Private schools aren't faring any cheaper as some increase their school fees by up to 47%, while kids in public school had fees go up to 22,000 Kenyan shillings a year. University fees increased from 16,000 shillings a semester to 52,000 per semester. Couple that with the new university funding model, several students are dropping out and deferring as fees joined Jeff Bezos in space. 71,000 students, now likely unemployed adults, who are now living gig to stress were listed on CRBs for defaulting on HELB loans. This fee increase was recommended by the Education Task Force, whose children are possibly failing exams in universities abroad. Kenya funds education using a cost-sharing approach. The issue with this is that poor households likely won't meet their end of the bargain because it cuts out people living hand to mouth. This in turn creates the school fees burden. Parents have to pay for teachers to be paid, and the government is the e-citizen middleman. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a Kenyan regime to mess up his education. Students come from different economic backgrounds, so those unable to pay school fees usually encounter countless disasters. Admission into school comes with a bribe in the hand for a class likely not in the bush. Shout out to Alliance. Students from poor or financially struggling homes are sometimes sent away from school and some don't even make it to their houses. 2 grade 3 pupils drowned in Homa Bay after they were sent home due to 800 Kenyan shillings school fees balance. Tragically, some students have been sexually abused in exchange for fees, like these girls from Kibwezi. For school-going girls, little to no sex ed and cases of abuse and statutory rape lead to teenage pregnancies. Many of them end up trying to get dangerous abortions, and because abortions are technically not legally covered in this country, some of them don't even make it. Others become young moms, with 90% of them dropping out of school and never returning. With Edu Afya, the student medical cover gone, students are now only insured under SHA, so if your parent or guardian can't help pay for the full year, it's likely the wild Wild West of uncertainties. Educators have highlighted that funding for day schools and sub-county schools are not diversified, just like most NGO board of directors. What about free secondary education? Here is how capitation going to tuition and high school has increased over the years. When free secondary education was announced, students were supposed to be able to walk into school and learn without paying anything. However, money went to other costs like paying non-teaching staff, electricity, water payments, local transport for students and teachers. Fare ni lazima. Whenever the government decides to play educational musical chairs by introducing new policy directives, they come with new costs which are then barely covered, like Wembanyama's feet in a 6-foot bed. All these costs are supposed to be covered by the same capitation. When GOK announced it will take care of medical costs for kids and teacher training, school principals thought that that would be a separate special fund. Oh, come on, school principals of 254. You know, if it was a special fund, it would already have made headlines with missing money. That's how you know they're committed to having one. Last I heard, the same fund was supposed to be used for laptops, road maintenance, rugby players going to Dubai, open travel costs, and other per diems.
Here's how funding looks like for schools. Primary schools get 1,420 Kenyan shillings per learner per year, junior schools get 15,040 per learner per year, and secondary schools get 22,244 per learner per year. Once the amount arrives, everyone with the directive is picking up a little tab from it like a death by 1,000 financial cuts. An internet sorcerer was able to open the NEMIS portal, and their data shows that out of the 22,244 that was disbursed to secondary schools per learner per year, only 25% was disbursed each quarter. That's about 5,700 Kenyan shillings. School principals are then told to set aside close to half for maintenance or improvement of infrastructure, with some of them magically mathing with 87 bob or 5,000 shillings for all the learners. No wonder all principals are in their Methuselah years.
Their association is called Kesha because to whomever lives with debt, much sleeps, escapes. Mhenga Wanda, 2025. They are trying to split 5,000 to run the school per year per child, while the kids are crafting several award-deserving nicknames, with some of them finding ways to be free by bonding with matches and gasoline somewhere. This is how delays in receiving funding affect schools. What's a Kenyan government office if they don't keep you waiting? Ask the knee creaking in the NSSF lines. It's much faster for old people to set up another successful career than it is for them to get retirement benefits on time. The National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, now known as CHEMIS, which is in charge of capturing students' data, has a website that looks like it was built using PDF++. CHEMIS hasn't been able to capture all Form 1 students since its inception because of the required documentation, leading to schools receiving less funding. Tough luck, Jaden. The system rejected the Y in your name so you could spend more time solving that equation. School principals are demanding more funding for the platform, which GOK has provided. Maybe it'll get to the platform. In other instances, the Treasury just sends schools less funds, and as a principal, you have to make those pennies work like Rihanna. Arrears have not been cleared by Treasury since 2019, with everyone waiting on this payment, like Nairobians waiting for the dimples not to swallow pedestrian in a minor cloud water invasion. Suppliers are joining students at the short end of the funding stick, as schools have also been barter trading food and other commodities in exchange for goodwill as payment. This has forced principals and teachers to take out personal loans or get side gigs like MCs at weddings and funerals. You know, all the places they can really get out their frustrations to run the schools. We're moving like public schools in America, derogatory. Going on Ellen, except that the Ellens in Kenya are politicians who enjoy a little child labor in exchange for school fees. GOK also threw a digital spanner in the works by requiring parents to pay fees via eCitizen, stating that this will help them enhance service delivery to schools. On one hand, eCitizen portal collects more money, and this could help maybe get more schools funding in good time. On the flip side, this could be the perfect recipe for any professor out there. Not to say that schools are perfect victims, far from it. Some schools have been accused of having ghost students and ghost teachers just so they can get that school bag from the government. One education government official siphoned 11 million Kenyan shillings from the government by creating a ghost school, and this is just one of many. Oh, to be a paid Casper School of Board members. The teacher becoming the bribery student costs the school capitation for new and existing directives. With schools being election polling stations too, maybe these signboards are for all the spirits leading us to where our elections are without voting borders. Education is the key to whatever padlock the future holds, so defunding it is consequential. Toying around with education through tribalism like what happened in Moi University, or messing around with governance leads to weak research output and limited international engagement like what happened to University of Nairobi that ended up dropping in world university rankings. Even though education takes up the lion's share of most of the budget, it's still not enough. Stay stressed for part 2, where there are solutions. I promise.